Good morning, everyone. I just thought I would finally jump on and do a video about the end of the juice fast. It's been a while since the juice fast, so I do apologise for that. I've had birthdays and Father's Day and all that sort of visitors and all that sort of stuff. But anyway, I just thought I'd jump on. I've made some notes because there was just so much that I wanted to say. I didn't really want to forget anything, and I wanted to answer the questions that people had asked me. So I hope you don't mind. I'm going to read a little bit. I'm sorry if that's a little bit boring for people, but there was just so much that went on during that 40 days. Yeah, I just wanted to capture as much of the essence of it as I could. So I'm going to start with sort of, my final reflections, and then I'm going to jump into some learnings, and then I'll answer the questions that people have asked me specifically about the juice fast. So a few of my final reflections. My body and energy feel totally different than before the juice fast. Like, they are definitely freer, they're cleaner, the frequency feels higher. It's just totally different. I really feel like my body isn't under stress anywhere near as much as it was before. Like, I look back now at photos and I can see that my body was under stress and it was basically in decline. And that has just changed so much now, which I think is just such a blessing. So that's the first thing. I experienced physically the things that I only understood intellectually before. So, for example, the frequency of food, and I'll get a bit more into that later, but I always knew that food held a frequency. I mean, everything's frequency, but I didn't really feel it. I didn't really intrinsically understand the linkages, until I did the juice fast. So that was amazing. My thought patterns have changed completely. And I now know that my thought patterns, or people's thought patterns, are intrinsically linked to the type of food that they consume. So that is really interesting. That was one of the most interesting things that I feel like I learned. My tastes, they've definitely changed. I'm now more satiated by food that fuels my body versus flavor, if that makes sense. Like, I still like flavor, but I'm more satiated by foods that I know have given me vitality. I also love my body more now, and I'm more conscious of how everything is so interlinked. Like, nothing is a separate, piece of the puzzle. It's all just intrinsically linked together. I also enjoy things more. I just enjoy things more physically. I'm more able to do things with my body because there's no aches and pains, there's no, joint inflammation, and emotionally, I'm just in a different space, and I'm just able to enjoy moments more and not really necessarily concern myself with moments that come after that. So that's been a real blessing. Okay. On to my biggest learnings. There's a few of them, sorry. I will sort of run through them, and if anyone wants to clarify anything, please just get in touch. Some of my biggest learnings, that my thoughts are very linked to the frequency of the food I'm eating. And I'll give you an example of that so that you can understand what I mean. So before the juice fast, like, I'm always a pretty positive person, always have been. But before the juice fast, if I had weird aches and pains, I would automatically then think that something might be seriously wrong with me, especially as I got older. And I realized about 20 days into my juice fast that I hadn't had a thought like that at all whilst I was drinking the juices. And so I'm like, oh, that's really super interesting. And even after the juice fast, I have only experienced thoughts like that if I've eaten a certain type of food, like a more dense sort of cooked food or things like that. So I now know that my thought patterns are so linked to the vitality of the food that I'm eating. That just blew my mind. Like, I just didn't think. Well, I just didn't know. I just didn't know that my thoughts were so linked to the vibrant, or the frequency of the food that I'm eating. But I now know that for sure. I also now understand that the fear and the guilt and the anxiousness that most humans experience is most likely due to the continued and consistent ingestion of foods that hold that frequency, right? So when we're eating things like meat and dairy and those sorts and processed foods, It's like, especially for the meat and dairy, you know, I mean, the frequency of those foods are fear and anxiousness and guilt, and, you know, and it's just, it's obvious now that I'm past the other end of it. But I always used to ask myself and a friend of mine who I do a lot of spiritual work together, we used to always ask the questions, why do humans operate from a space of fear first? Why isn't it not fear first? Why is it, what if everything works out? But it's not. And then after I got through the juice fast and I had all the linkages about frequency and food, I realized that, oh my gosh, when you're eating meat every day, you are ingesting the frequency of fear every day, right? So that frequency makes up your frequency. So our frequency is made up by all of the things we eat, see, hear, you know, say, listen to, all of those things, right? Food is integral to that because it's something that we do 3 times a day or more than 3 times a day every day. So anyway, I thought that was really interesting. The other thing that I learned, and part of the reason I went into this, as you'll know from earlier videos, was due to the menopause symptoms I was experiencing. So one of the learnings I got through this was that, like, how could I have thought that I have spent, you know, 50 years ingesting the hormones of other animals or other, you know, beings, and then expected my system and my hormones to actually be able to regulate themselves after that amount of time. So my personal view, you know, I'm not a doctor, any of that, but my personal view is a lot of the menopause symptoms I experienced was actually due to the fact that my hormones were so confused by all the other hormones that I'd put into my body throughout all of those years that they just didn't know how to regulate themselves anymore, right? I don't believe that menopause should be an issue for any woman. I believe that it is a physical change that happens in the body in terms of, you know, a chemical change, but that's it. Like, your body knows how to do that. It's part of the whole life cycle process. So there shouldn't really be anything else other than that particular change. So yeah, that's one thing. Other thing I learned. Okay, another learning was to integrate all aspects of myself and recognize that it's just the one system. So often we think about our body as one, our energy fields, and then our mind, all that stuff. Now, I know we all know that it's sort of the one thing, but the interesting thing was I hadn't really experienced it as the one thing until I did the juice fast, right? And I also realized that I was sort of fighting with my body because I was disappointed with it, and I was, you know, not happy with the way it was acting and the way, you know, all the inflammation, all that sort of stuff. Whereas I actually got to understand that it's all the one thing. So I can't be disappointed with my body without actually being accountable for what I'm doing, because I am my body. Like, it was just, I know it sounds ridiculous because when I say it out loud, it sounds obvious, but it wasn't obvious to me in the way I was behaving and treating my body and talking about my body and those sorts of things. So now I'm listening to my body and I'm giving it exactly what it needs. I'm trusting that it's telling me the right things and I'm doing what it's, you know, asking me for, which has made all the difference. I also learnt something really interesting. I learnt that all the moments we experience as, you know, a human or as a person are linked in a heavy emotional way to the density that our body carries. So as I filled my body with more light vibrations from living foods, the binds or experiences that I'd previously had that were stuck in denser emotional frequencies that my body was holding onto, just miraculously sort of, I don't know, they were freed of that emotional attachment. And so now I look back on the experience as an experience without any of the emotional attachment to it. So as my frequency got lighter, the emotions or the density that was attached to those previous experiences sort of just dissolved. And that was really cool. So now I look back on things and I'm just like, that was just an experience. So I don't know, it's hard to explain, but that one was really cool from a personal perspective. I learned that health and vitality are about the amount of light our physical and energy fields hold, and food is intrinsically linked to this. So cells have a frequency that is either vibrant and light or it's decaying and dense. And there is a physical difference that is created from that. Cells will still operate in that decaying frequency or that format until they basically just can't any longer. And that's what we have all termed disease or aging, right? I know that's a lot to take in, but it's really, really important, right? They are the two aspects that cells are, right? So when you think about that and you really sit with that, everything that you put in your mouth is having an impact on every cell in your body. And every cell in your body ultimately creates the disease or the aging or the vitality that you have. And there's no question in any part of my being that that is not the truth. That is the truth. So they were my main, learnings that I'd had. There are so many more, but I just tried to wrap them up, I guess, into the main ones that I had. So just quickly onto the questions that I had from people along the juice fast and that people wanted answered in this final video. How do I break the fast? So I followed a protocol by Shane Sterling. He runs a group called Raw Vegan Heroes. I think his YouTube channel is Raw Vegan Rising. So he gives you the protocol when you join his Raw Vegan Heroes group. And he is amazing. I had a call with him very early on before I started the juice fast, and he's amazing. So he outlines the protocol that you follow for the juice fast and also for breaking the juice fast. But just quickly, when I finished the juice fast on day 40, it was 3 days of the continued juices, and I added in soft fruits like orange, berries, mango, pineapple, that sort of stuff, and I could eat those fruits, as much of it as I wanted. Then the 3 following days after that, so I did that for 3 days. Then the 3 days after that, I would continue with the juices and the soft fruits, but I could now add in smoothies. And in those smoothies, I could have like really tender greens like spinach or some lettuce, and I could add bananas at that point, so that was good. And then 3 days after that, so now we're on, 6 days after, I could add in all fruits, so I could have all fruits, and I could start having more in my salads like soft fats. I could have some coconut yogurt. So still very gentle on the digestive system. And then basically after that, so sort of from day 10, 10 to 14 onwards, I could slowly start adding in more veggies like carrots, beetroots, all types of veggies, and also nuts and seeds. So that's sort of how I did it. In the beginning, I was craving tomatoes, so I ate a lot of tomatoes. I don't know why, there must have been something in tomatoes that I really needed. So I just wanted that sort of savory flavor. The question about organic versus non-organic, I always try to use organic or chemical-free whenever I possibly can for ethical and health reasons. But for the juice fast, just to reduce the cost, I didn't always buy organic oranges or pineapple because they have a really thick skin, so it's not that really important about the non-organic or organic. For any of the greens like the herbs like the parsley, coriander or celery or any of that, I bought organic for that because that's quite important for that. What were the other questions? Oh, okay, next one, top 3 challenges. So the top 3 challenges I had during the juice fast was cooking for family. I mean, that took a whole lot of willpower, like seriously, more willpower than I ever thought I had. It did take a lot of willpower. The second challenge was lack of different flavors. Like because the juice protocol was very similar juices every day for the 40 days, I just was bored and I just wanted different flavors, which I did add in. I have to be honest, I added in some, strawberries, some carrots, some, just different flavors because I just couldn't do the 40 days of specifically similar juices. And 3 was expectations not met. So because I'd done a bit of research on it and, I was in Shane's group, all these people were releasing mucoid plaque on day 14 and all this stuff. So I had set myself expectations of what I wanted to do. And I think that was the biggest challenge because that didn't actually pan out like that. So I had to let go of that expectation. So that was another sort of big challenge that I had. Question number 4, did I exercise? I did not exercise a great deal. I did some light Pilates, some stretching, some walking. I really tried to keep my heart rate low and let my body have all the energy it needed to do whatever it was that it needed. So no, I didn't exercise because I really wanted my body to have that time to heal itself. That was just a personal choice and that's what I did. Question 5, what days were a massive struggle? Days 35 to 40 were a huge struggle. In hindsight, I possibly should have stopped on day 35. I think my body might have had enough on day 35. Anyway, I was totally over it. So I really had to pull myself through those last 5 days. And really for the last couple of days, I didn't do the volume of juices. Like it was 4 litres a day and I think I might have done 2 litres a day. I was just so over it. But anyway, I made it to the 40 days. And the last question, 6, how did I manage cooking for the family? Again, that was probably my biggest challenge because I am the cook. I cook for Marshall and Holly all the time. So I just had to use every ounce of willpower I had, but I also made sure I had my favorite juice ready for dinner. Usually that was a pineapple juice because I felt like I wanted something sweet at the end of the day. I felt like it was a bit of a treat. So I had that for dinner while Marshall and Holly were having what I cooked them. So yeah, it was pretty challenging, but I kept my vision that I wanted, and I kept that health, objective forefront in my mind. So, ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm so glad I did it. I think it's been a miraculous benefit to my health, to my spirituality, my mental processing. Like, I honestly can't recommend it enough. It was challenging, there's no doubt about that, and I worked up to the 40-day juice fast, but I think any juice fast for any amount of time where you give your body a break and you fill it with just the amazing phytonutrients that juices have, I feel like that's beneficial for anybody's health. So I am here if anyone wants to ask me more detailed questions, or I can flesh out some of those other things that I talked about, because I know I have run over it pretty quickly. I just didn't want this video to be hours long, but I am here for anyone who wants more information. If you've got any other questions, please just reach out and get in contact with me, and I'm happy to share whatever it is, whatever knowledge I've gained through that time or through that juice fast. I'm happy to share that with anyone. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for following my journey. There will be more. I've got some amazing sort of wonderful ideas that have come out of the juice fast from a wellness perspective and a wellness coaching perspective. So yeah, stay tuned, watch this space, and have a great day, and reach out if you feel you want to. Okay, everyone, talk soon. Bye.